Hello, everyone, and welcome to Lifetime's Q&A for hopeful adoptive parents. My name is Kim King, and I'm here with Heather Featherston, and we're excited that you've joined us for our 30-minute quick Q&A all about adoption, and we are excited to spend this time and answer the questions that are on your minds. If you are new to Lifetime, we are Lifetime Adoption, a licensed child placing agency in the state of Florida, and we have completed adoptions in every state. And we are able to assist birth moms and adoptive parents all throughout the country and really help see those connections form. And we're excited to share today some of what we're seeing behind the scenes that you really don't see reflected on our website. So we're glad that you're with us. We have several questions in from the registration and great things to share with you as far as how the year is going so far. If you are a brand new family that is just starting to get to know us, we encourage you to fill out your application here at Lifetime at LifetimeAdoption.com. It is a free application, which is rare in today's adoption world to have a free application, and it's really there to help you start the conversation with us. It's a great way to explore things, get access to more information and guidance that really is tailored to where you are, your family characteristics, your adoption preferences and needs, as well as the timeline and just kind of where you are with things as far as growing your family, maybe wanting to explore some medical options, maybe thinking about some different paths of adopting. And we can talk with you about that if you fill out your application and share a little about yourselves. It should only take about 15 minutes to complete, and it's at lifetimeadoption.com. You can fill that out right there on the site. It asks for one recent photo of you, and then we'll be able to take a look and maybe even schedule a time for a phone conference or video conference, your choice. And we'll provide lots of information, some videos and handouts so you can gather all that information. It's common for families to say, we just want to get as much information as possible so we can make the best decision we can going forward. And we love that. That's why we provide so much information, because that knowledge is so powerful in building your foundation on the path to the child that God has for you. And coming to webinars like this are also a great sign that you're headed in the right direction. It allows you to get to know us better here at Lifetime, kind of be a fly on the wall in the conversation or actively engage with us in this call. And it also allows you to get the information that you need, maybe some answers to questions that you haven't thought to ask that other adoptive parents have submitted. So Heather, thank you for being here with us, and we're excited to get our Q&A going.
I'm happy to be here.
So Heather, some of the questions that we got in from the registration, what is a good dollar amount to figure for the entire adoption? And I would say, I mean, of course, this answer is going to be time sensitive, right? Like 5 years ago, we might have had a different answer. Certainly, the landscape is always changing financially here in the US and with services and the cost of everything. Right now, I think a good average is maybe 45 to 50,000. I know that's more of a range, but there are some kind of variable aspects to your cost.
Right.
Lifetime's fee is a flat fee, but the home study is done locally in your state. So that's going to be, dependent on how much home studies go for in your state. And then legally, we'll give you a range to plan for as far as like legal services and the cost for legal work.
Right.
And that's also going to be a range depending on kind of what we know of your state and what state the birth mom ends up being in, as well as maybe assisting with some birth mom expenses, which that's very common in the US to assist with her living expenses on her path to relinquishing the child, usually in the last few months of her pregnancy. Now, our average for total birth mom expenses is pretty low, maybe around $5,000 total. Families generally set it somewhere, their limit that is somewhere between 5, 7, 10,000, maybe somewhere in there, I think is all reasonable. And we'll guide you through this. Again, when you fill out the application and we're able to have a conference with you, a scheduled phone call or video call, we're able to guide you through this and help kind of crunch those numbers with you and get to a number that you feel good about setting for your baseline limit for birth mom expenses. All of those factors are important: home study, legal work, birth mom expenses, your flat fee for Lifetime as your adoption agency. So usually in the end, families spend around 45 to 50,000, but again, some variable aspects there. Even like adding added services, that Lifetime can provide. And if you have more questions about the budget, the cost, want to know some specific numbers as far as what we're seeing right now in each of these areas, send me an email, kim@lifetimeadoption.com, and I'll send you back all the information. I'll just need to know your first and last name and what state you're in. So that way, if there's anything state specific, I can be sure to include that for you, and you'll get back all the information that you need for budget, and we can go from there. So you don't have to apply just to get questions answered, and I'm
Right.
happy to send you that information.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. One thing I want to say, Kim, about the birth mother expenses as you were explaining it, it's good to understand that even if you set your budget for $5, $7, $8,000, sometimes birth mothers don't have any expenses. That is becoming more rare with the changes in healthcare we're seeing, but it's just good to know that just because you set an amount, certainly you need to have that amount available, but you won't necessarily have a birth mother that has that. It has to do with a range and her needs and how far along she is in pregnancy. There's a lot of variables that that come into play.
I love the fact that you pointed that out, Heather. And to add on to that, often families wonder, like if I'm in the mind of an adoptive parent right now, just
Mhm.
learning about this,
Mhm.
I'm going to say I'm wondering, well, if I set my amount, like my limit for birth mom expenses at like 7,000,
Mhm.
then I mean, like, how do we know what the birth mom truly needs? Is she going to just pick us
Right.
because we have that higher amount?
Right.
And how does Lifetime come to that,
Mhm.
um, figure?
Mhm. And no, birth mothers don't know what your budget is. We don't list that anywhere. That's she never will know that number. Um, but we talk to her about what her needs are. Is she homeless and needs some stability? Is she working and has a medical plan that has a sizable deductible for a delivery? Um, Maybe she needs help with transportation or food. Maybe she's behind in her utility bill and needs help, paying the back electric and paying it the remainder of her pregnancy.
Hmm.
We recently helped a mom who the doctor put her on bed rest, and she had been working, and now she was out of work and in a state that didn't have disability unless you had a private insurance plan like through Aflac. So it really, everyone's need is individual. So we talk to her about her needs so that we can set a range of what we think it's going to be and then show her waiting adoptive parents who we believe can have room in that budget to help her.
Hmm. Right. And of course, every state is going to have different laws when it comes to limiting what adoptive parents can assist with, amounts, when, um, and different categories like help with housing or help with medical.
Hmm.
So we normally actually don't see big medical expenses. I
No.
think usually the bulk of what we see is for housing help.
Hmm.
That's a little more common. And when we say our average is 5,000 in birth mom expenses, we mean total, not
Right.
monthly.
Right.
So just keep these things in mind. And if you have more specific questions about any of these things, feel free to send those questions right in or just give us a call. Our office number is 727-493-0933, and we're happy to speak with you. Just call and just say, hey, I'm an inquiring adoptive parent, and I was on the webinar and I have some questions. Um, how long does it typically go until you get matched is another question that came in.
That's a great question because um, you need to understand that with modern adoption today, the birth mother or birth parents choose the adoptive parents in, I would say, probably 95% of the adoptions we see. And so it's hard to put a time frame on it. It used to be easy when they didn't choose and you just had you were basically a number on a list, and when your number came up, that was your baby. But it doesn't work that way anymore. Birth parents play an active role in their adoption plans, and sometimes a birth parent may even choose to talk to more than one family as she's making her decision. So for that reason, it's hard to put a timeline on it because anything we or anyone else is going to give you is really a guess. We've had families be chosen by the first birth mother that saw them. We've had, families that definitely took longer. A big part of Lifetime's program is helping you design your, we call them your presentation materials, your website, your video, the words you use, the pictures you show. We have one-on-one help for you as you're in that process in Lifetime's program. So we can really help guide you. And I will give you a tip here. The best thing you can do is take the advice you're given, because it's all grounded in current birth parent feedback, and that's really really important. Um, the other thing that really affects that is your preferences. What are you open to in regards to race, age, substance exposure? What types of things are you open to saying yes to? Because the more open you are, the more opportunities you're going to have to be shown. Certainly your birth mother budget plays into that as well. A family with a very, very low birth mother budget isn't going to have as many opportunities to be shown. So there's things you can control within your preferences, but also certainly we don't ever want a family to be more open than they truly are comfortable with saying yes to. And probably the other tip I can throw in there is, um, be prepared to say yes, because it's really difficult when we're working with a family, and this happened pretty recently, about 2 weeks ago, working with a family and had the opportunity to present them with a birth mother who'd chosen them right within their preferences. And there were some things that had come up that they hadn't shared with us, and they had to say no. And here this was, this could have been their adoption, and instead, that baby went to another family. So you really have to be prepared and ready to say yes.
And consider also in that moment the impact to birth mom having to
Right.
regroup
Right.
and just starting back from square one,
Mhm.
looking at the families again that we have presented. But that next family was ready to jump right in.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
When it comes to preferences, of course, when you fill out your application, and our application is free, it's at lifetimeadoption.com. There are a couple of preferences we ask you about on the application that you can answer to the best of your ability. And then when we get to have that opportunity to get to know you more and schedule your phone or video conference, we're going to guide you through shaping a complete set of preferences. One of the things that comes up that we want to verify with adoptive parents is that they're open to adopting a child, whether boy or girl, either way. So we bring it up because we don't want to accidentally overlook that a family might only be open to adopting a girl or might only be open to adopting a boy. So during our phone conferences or video conferences with prospective adoptive parents, we'll say, are you happy to adopt the child, whether boy or girl? Either way, would you be able to move forward? Most
Mhm.
adoptive parents say yes, absolutely. If we were pregnant, we wouldn't be choosing. We're not planning to choose. Gender is not a factor that has brought us here on the path to this call today in adopting a child. Heather, what would you say if a family does end up deciding, or maybe in that moment they say, well, we would like to have a girl or we would like to have a boy. What are your thoughts on that?
You know, um, I will say, I first off, I have two boys. I have no girls. And there was a long time that I really, after I had the two boys, I really wanted one more child because I wanted to try for a girl. And my husband used to tease me, if you really want a girl, you need to, bring one home from work. Or basically, he was saying we need to adopt one. Um, and we never did. We still just have two boys. But I think what I have learned with a little more space and age, and also raising boys through their teen years while I had girlfriends who were raising girls in their teen years, is that there really is no right or wrong. Having a girl in mind or a boy in mind, that's awesome. But the further away I got from that, the and I can tell you today, I am so glad I have my two boys, and I don't feel that loss of a girl that I felt when I was a little younger. And I really think that it's because, I know sometimes people say, well, I I feel like I'm more prepared to raise a girl as a mother. I think that none of us are really prepared when before we are parents. And it doesn't matter, boy or girl, if you've, got the same plumbing or not, you learn as you go along. It's just part of being a parent. It's kind of like if you think back when we were in school and we learned math. There's a reason we started with 1 plus 1 and worked our way up to algebra. We didn't start with algebra. We started with basic. And the same goes true with parenting. You start with basic. You start with the small things so that when you think about, oh my gosh, I'll never understand a girl in her teenage years, you will, because you will start at square one. And it's like most any endeavor in life, you build your knowledge as you go through it. So when I talk to families about specifying gender, I really try to talk about what is your reasoning for it, because if it's like I just talked to, you'll have the tools and skills. Absolutely. By the time that girl's a teenager, or that boy needs to learn how to drive, you will have the tools, skills, and abilities you need. And if you haven't developed them naturally, you'll have know who you can ask and what book you can read. If it's something else, if it's like, you know what, I have 3 girls and I really want a boy, um, or something like that, that's kind of, we might talk about, but what if? Because we've had families who did specify gender and they were chosen by that mom who was going to have a boy. And guess what? Out popped a girl because ultrasounds can be wrong. So, I really just, and the reason I really, gosh, I, I, I really like to have reality checks with families who want to specify gender because it narrows your preferences so very much. And let me explain. You might think, okay, well, if I narrow, if I just want a boy or just want a girl, that only reduces my opportunities by 50%. No, it actually reduces it by 75% because in addition to the other gender we won't show you to, we also can't show you to moms who don't know what they're having. And we don't ever want to put conditions on moms that, well, we can't show you families until you figure out if you're having a boy or a girl. That's not, it doesn't feel good. It's not the right thing to do. We'd rather show her families who are open to her baby with the information we have now. So if you do specify gender, for every 4 moms who match all your other preferences, you're only eligible to be shown to 1. And then you have to add a whole nother layer on top of that, which is this. The birth mothers, they have preferences too. They can say, you know what, I really want a family who lives in the South. I really want a family with a stay-at-home mom. I really want a family who is educated, who has no kids, who has kids, who has dogs, who doesn't have dogs, who lives on a farm, who lives in the city. They have preferences too. So now all of a sudden your 1 out of 4 might be reduced to 1 out of 8 or 12 because you may not match the preferences on every single one. So you just really want to be very cautious specifying gender because it
Mhm.
does really narrow your opportunities to be chosen.
Right. And, sometimes adoptive parents will say, well, after all we've been through, we're willing to wait for what we want. So we understand and appreciate your candor, and you're telling us it's going to be harder, it's going to take longer, but, we just really want to wait for what we want. We want to wait for that picture perfect scenario that we have in mind, and
Hmm.
these are the
Hmm.
factors that we need in place for us to move forward. And here at Lifetime, we have to be able to assess our ability to help you in a timely manner. And
Right.
even though adoptive parents may be willing to wait longer, as an adoption professional, we don't feel good about partnering with an adoptive parent that we feel already has challenges from the very beginning,
Mhm.
that maybe it's not even realistic to expect an adoption within 2 years. That's
Right.
kind of our standard as to how we choose families, that we feel confident, hey, their preferences encompass a good variety of cases we
Mhm.
see on a regular basis, and with birth moms who are open to a family like theirs, those family characteristics, those preferences birth moms have, like Heather was mentioning.
Mhm.
So, we've also got to be able to feel confident in our ability to help meet those needs. So it's very few and far between that we'll be able to actually find that perfect fit for a family, with a family that is specifying gender, but everything else is so open. All their family characteristics are great, and they just have this one limiting factor, and we've got to make sure we have an opening in the program available to add a family specifying gender. And I would
Mhm.
say most adoption professionals, at least the ones that truly have a heart for helping you as adoptive parents, they're going to be wary of partnering with someone with
Mhm.
such a specific preference. And so
Mhm.
if they're ready gung ho to jump right in and tell you not to worry about it, even after now all the other factors we're concerned about, you need to be a little more wary then
Right.
as well, and really search your heart as to your motives, your reasons. Is this a desire, or is this a reason driving you to adoption? Because I'll
Right.
tell you, most families that we work with that are really a good partner for Lifetime, they have other factors that have brought them to where we are today having this conversation, such as
Mhm.
infertility,
Mhm.
medical reasons, a host of reasons that have brought them to adoption as their path, that this is where the Lord is leading, and gender is not going to stop them from accepting that baby God has for them. So it's kind of sitting with this information for a bit, absorbing it, going to the Lord in prayer to have help, ask Him to help you manage that desire and really factor in, the logic plus the spiritual aspect, and really boil it down to what brings you here to adoption, and then say, is it necessary for me to specify gender? Or could
Mhm.
I adopt and parent a child and love a child regardless of whether it's a son or a daughter?
Mhm.
And Heather, speaking of sons and daughters, we have had many babies born already this year,
Mhm.
and it's still, it's not even the middle of January yet.
Right.
Can you share with me a couple of,
Sure.
some of the stories that we've had so far in our adoptions?
I think probably the most exciting ones to share. There are two adoptions, but four babies over New Year's weekend. We had a set of twins born on Friday, and that was a match, and the family was there and was present and is thrilled. And then we actually got a text Saturday night from another woman who the text literally said, just had um, I just had my babies and want to do adoption." That was it. And we tried to call. We engaged her a little bit. Finally, the next morning, she actually answered the phone, and she had had the babies a Saturday, and twins, boy girl twins, and she wanted to do an adoption, and she hadn't called before. And our on-call, we have staff available 24 hours a day, so our on-call crew just helped her with the paperwork, got the social worker involved, got uh, everything lined up, and she chose a family that was pretty close location wise to her. They were able to drive, and it's 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 done. She signed, and the family's there. The babies were a little early, so they're still in the hospital. But yeah, that's exciting to start the year off, or end the last year, depending on how you look at it, over New
Mhm.
Year's Eve,
Mhm.
with two sets of twins, and that was very exciting. And I think we've had two babies since then. So it's been a busy time here, and certainly those families that got their twins feel doubly blessed, I am sure.
Yeah. So, really exciting things happening here at Lifetime. You just never know when the phone's going to ring or one of those texts is going to come in. And that's why it's so good to know that Lifetime has the 24/7 support for birth moms when they reach out with even just a little 10 words, I just had babies,
Mhm.
and then we're on it. our team is on it. And when you're in Lifetime's program, and you have your home study complete, you're able to be called. We can call you up and say, hey, how soon can you get there? Can you get there by tonight or tomorrow morning? And we kind of refer to those as sudden adoption opportunities or drop in the lap opportunities. And Heather, whenever these kinds of things come up, people want to know, well, is that a common thing or is that rare? And I would say it happens a few times a month at least. That's very common for us. Our team is well versed in sudden adoption opportunities, and our adoptive parents are also well prepared for that. I mean, nothing
Definitely.
is going to fully prepare you for your specific adoption scenario.
And it's funny because we talk about those. We have 2 live monthly calls like this with our contracted families, exclusively for our contracted families. And sometimes we answer questions, sometimes we bring a professional in, sometimes it's someone else on our team who may work with birth mothers. But we talk about these a lot, and inevitably, when you call a family to say, hey, you know what, I need to talk to you about a situation, we have some babies born, you always hear the same thing. Oh my gosh, I never thought this would happen to me. And it's like, no, it happens, and it's real, and and certainly this last one, it was so sweet because the and really it happens a lot too. You kind of get to the end of, okay, this is what I need to talk to you about, and there's silence, and you say, are you there? And it's like, yeah, I just can't believe it. And so it is very, very exciting. But we try to prepare you, and that we were talking to the adoptive mom in that case, and we got all the words out about what it was and everything. And she said, well, let me call my husband. I'll call you right back. She called back in 10 minutes and said, we're in. Where do we go? And it was just a beautiful. I think the overall, what I'm trying to say is families feel so much more prepared when they are prepared. And that is one of Lifetime's, I think, biggest strengths, is that preparation for adoptive parents. Because to suddenly get a call that says, okay, you got chosen, here's the address of the hospital, you know, there's like a million questions next. What do I take? Where do I go? Who do I call? How fast do I need to get there? But families in Lifetime's program have those answers, not because they have a piece of paper, although we have a piece of paper with that, but because they're engaged in the webinars, and they learn, and they hear from other families and their experiences, and hear from our staff, and our staff is um it could be me calling you. It could be Jen calling you. It could be one of our birth mother coordinators. It could be anyone on our team, but they all work very closely together. So it's often that if you do get a call like that, it's a familiar voice. It's someone you may have talked to before, because that's just how we work. We don't outsource our after hours staff and team. We all take turns, and we do so voluntarily because our staff is committed, and they're committed both to our birth parents and also our adoptive parents.
Mhm. And Heather, there is one more question on the registration that I wanted to be sure we don't skip over, but this question is kind of an easy one for Lifetime to answer because of the way we operate. And also I want to give some encouragement with this too. So I think adoptive parents often wonder what happens if a birth mom chooses to parent her baby, or in these
Sure,
words, keep baby at the last minute.
sure.
So here at Lifetime, we continue working with you as our adoptive parents.
Hmm.
When we enter into this agreement and partnership together, when you're chosen for our program and you choose us back, we're in it together, and we're here to help you do everything that you possibly can do to get to the point where you're chosen by a birth mom and have a successful adoption. We can't predict when that will happen, as we talked about, circling back to the first
Hmm.
question we discussed today. But we're here to help see it through. And this is a partnership, and we're here to guide you. And our agreement and partnership was never based on one specific girl in Mississippi who's due in,
Right.
July. It wasn't about that. It's about our ability to partner and all the possibilities that we see on a regular basis for families like you with preferences like yours, and the likelihood of being successful. That's our partnership. So if a birth mom chooses to parent, of course, I think there's a bittersweet aspect to that, right? Where you're like, well, this could have been our baby, this could have been our moment, but you know what? We're still here on the path to adoption. And if a woman doesn't need to go through this, we celebrate that for her.
Mm-hmm.
We were here in a partnership with her if she wanted us to be. But if she's saying, I don't need adoption, I'm going to parent, I'm going to give this a whirl, I'm going to parent my baby, and that's her choice. I don't know of many adoptive parents that would begrudge a birth mom that, but it's also a faith in knowing that God has a baby for you and that his plans are so magnificent for your life that one woman in Mississippi who decides to parent her baby is not going to thwart the plans and blessings that God has for you. So you've got to know that your need is being met, and in God's plan has already been met. We're just on the path. We're riding the wave of what that path looks like in your story that God is writing for your family. So we want you to know that it is possible a birth mom could choose to parent. Now, our reclaim rate is very low, about 4 to 6%. There's a lot of birth mom support that goes into it, a lot of support for adoptive parents that all kind of tighten up that margin. For a birth mom to change her mind, it's not common. Usually it's not a change of circumstance, it's not a change of heart, perhaps a change of
Right.
circumstances. We screen and support her through this thought process beforehand, and don't jump into matches early on. And there are many things that we do. We could do a whole webinar on how to reduce reclaim rate. But the fact is, we want to be able to partner with you, and we want to work with families who know that we're going to still be here with you. So you don't pay us anything else. What may be at risk financially would be depending on how far you got with legal costs, if you traveled, if you started helping her with her bills, and then she changed her mind. So those are natural risks financially when it comes to any adoption. And with Lifetime, we are the hub of your adoption, and we're still here, and you can rely on Lifetime. So as soon as you say you're ready, we start presenting you to new birth moms.
Mm-hmm.
And we do our best to mentally and spiritually help you prepare for these through the adoptive family support webinars that we offer, so
Mm-hmm.
that you can see the stories of other families that maybe went through something like that and how it all worked out perfectly in the end. And they can't imagine any other child that is more perfect for their family than the one God did indeed bring to them.
Absolutely. Well said.
So thank you all for being here with us. If you're listening to the replay, thank you for taking the time to listen to this recorded webinar. And we're excited for what the year will bring, and so thankful to be a part of the blessings that the Lord has already provided to our adoptive parents. And it's such a privilege to be in this role in this time in your life as adoptive parents, as well as in the lives of these women that reach out asking for our help, from the birth mother's perspective. If you're new to Lifetime, again, be sure to fill out your application. We can take a look at it tomorrow. The application is free. It's at LifetimeAdoption.com. If you want to get specific, it's at LifetimeAdoption.com/apply. And feel free to request information if you would like that emailed to you. My email address is kim@lifetimeadoption.com. Just let me know your first and last name and your state and anything else that you want to share with me as far as what's brought you here and kind of what are your questions. And, feel free to share. And I look forward to answering any questions and providing that for you, and the whole team does here at Lifetime. So thank you for being with us, and we look forward to our next one and talking to you soon.
Bye-bye.